Welcome back to The Comic Dudes, a podcast about comic books and comic book related things. This week, it's on the comic book related things side of the aisle. We're going to talk about the new Spider-Man animated movie, Across the Spider-Verse. This episode contains major spoilers. So if you do not want spoilers, stop listening or watching right now. It's a rare Matt and Dave W where we both saw a new release film during the same 7-day period, and we can actually record a podcast about it. Pretty excited.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, I think that speaks to this movie. For me, the first film, I think Into the Spider-Verse, that was a movie that pretty much my entire friend group was like, dude, this is one of the best Spider-Man movies. Like, you need to see it. And I definitely did not see it anywhere close to when it was released. I think I saw it maybe like a year or two later. And after I did see it, I feel like I watched it like twice in a week. I was just like, this movie is awesome. So when I saw that Across the Spider-Verse was going to be released, I mean, there's really not a lot of movies that really get me to go to the movie theater anymore, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I just saw like the new Fast and Furious movie came out, and you can already rent it and stream it. It's like 3 weeks later. So it's like, why am I going to go to the movie theater when they're going to release these things, so quick to release? But this was one I was like, I will be at the movie theater within, the first week or so of it coming out. So I was definitely excited to go into this movie and see it.
So I've got a lot of opinions about it.
Okay.
Some good,
okay,
some bad.
Really?
But before we get into it, I would like to say that overall, I liked the movie. I think that it was a good movie. I'm glad I went to go see it. I'm super happy with the majority of the movie, but there's a few things where I have to take Sony to the mat on a few things.
I love to hear it, because I went into this movie and I was completely blown away, if I'm being honest, and maybe I was just
Let's
distracted.
Start with the good then. Let's start with the good.
Okay. So for me, I think one of the big positives from this movie is the relationship between Miles and Gwen. I don't know if that's a romantic relationship. They kind of hint to that, but whatever. Just their friendly relationship that, like, at the beginning of this movie, like, Miles really misses Gwen, obviously, and she misses him too, but he really misses her. And I think their whole relationship and where it goes throughout the course of this movie is really one of the strengths of this film. Another thing that I want to just kind of harp on is I'm in a lot of comic book conversations, and I've had this conversation with people over the years about the Miles character and about Peter Parker is the number one Spider-Man, which I do kind of fall into that point. Peter Parker's my guy. That's the guy I've been raised with.
He's the original.
But people are Miles is a token hero, and I have said that before in the past too, that he's kind of a token, but Miles Morales, I think the strength that some of these people are missing, for me, why Miles really works is one, they've really invested in this character. They have stuck by Miles. But more importantly, especially in this film, his family dynamics are so, his family is so likable. His dad, I get, you get what his dad is going through, and you get what his mom Rio is going through. And they are just good, well-written, genuine characters. And even in the comic books, that was one thing that was always cool, is that family dynamic. And Uncle Aaron, I have an Uncle Aaron in my life. I have a guy who's just like Uncle Aaron. Maybe not to the Prowler nature.
He doesn't put on a costume and
he's not
and do villainous deeds.
He's not doing villainous deeds, but I have that cool uncle that my straight laced
you look up to.
That I look up to, and he's the cool uncle. My dad's the more straight laced, by the book kind of guy, but we all have that cool kind of uncle. A lot of us have that cool uncle. So I just think those family dynamics are really, really intriguing, and that really, there's just something about Miles's flavor, man. I'm not a city guy, but I just love that he's in Brooklyn. And there is all this diversity, and it's good diversity. It's well-written diversity, and that is what I want. Like, I'm just immersed, and I really like Miles Morales. I was skeptical. I was skeptical on him at the beginning, but I've really fallen in line, and like, I cannot wait to get into that PS5 game as well too. I know we got the new one coming out, but his expansion as well too, because like the 5 minutes I played of it, like, you're really in that world. So I'm rambling now, but that's just like 2 points that I thought were really good from the film.
So on the family aspect of it, I think it's also really, it makes Miles so much different from Peter in the sense that like Peter doesn't really, you don't get Peter Parker's parents, they're dead. His parents were Aunt May and Uncle Ben, and Ben's dead. Aunt May comes and goes. Mary Jane comes and goes, but Miles, they've done a really good job of giving Miles a consistent supporting cast, and I'm sort of talking comics, really. I'm getting away from the movie a little bit here, I think, with this, but yeah, I agree with you. I mean, in Across the Spider-Verse, yeah, his familial dynamic is really, really interesting, and it's really relatable. Everyone's been a frustrated teenager at some point in their lives. And his is a unique type of frustration because he can't tell his parents that he's a superhero, even though he kind of wants to, because it would make his life so much easier.
Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, I think throughout the course of the movie, that's kind of what they're building towards, is that he wants to tell them. I loved the stuff at Brooklyn Visions Academy. I loved his fight with the Spot, despite the fact that I don't love the Spot.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm about to start talking negatives, and I don't want to get into negatives too, so let me stay with positives. Everything about Gwen in this movie is phenomenal. The fact that the movie started with like a 15-20 minute Gwen sequence, I love that. It was a great setup. I really, really, really like that character. I like her more in the movies than in the comics.
Yep.
And I, my girlfriend and I rewatched Into the Spider-Verse last weekend before going to see Across the Spider-Verse this week, and it's viewing the movies back to back. It really was a very nice continuation of the story.
Okay.
I know there was like a small or short recap in the beginning of the movie, but I don't think that does the first movie justice. But that's neither here nor there. I loved that Miguel O'Hara is in the movie. I'm a big Spider-Man 2099 guy.
Yep.
But I do have some problems with his representation within.
M. Bison dude turns into M. Bison. He's like Psycho Killer. He's like Psycho Killer. I don't know Miguel O'Hara. I don't know the comic book version. I'll be completely honest and transparent. But this man was a Psycho Killer, and I don't think that's how he is in the comics. But I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not how he is in the comics.
I want to echo your Gwen stuff just real quick. Like, in the back of my mind, when I'm watching this movie, if I'm being honest, I was like, man, they kind of like sideline Miles for a lot of this film in favor of Gwen, but I was okay with it. Like, normally I'm not. When they do stuff like that, like, I'm not okay with it. Like, but her character was so cool, and I agree with you. Like, the cinematic version of her, like, I really like it, and I was like cool with it. So I just want to echo your sentiment there.
Yeah.
This dude's gonna
I feel
go
like
off.
my criticisms.
He's gonna. I feel like
my criticisms are more at the forefront of my mind right now. So I think maybe you should talk about some more. I don't want to bash the movie, man, because I did really like it. But like,
you liked it.
The longer I've had to think about it since I saw it, the more problems I have with it.
No, like, I mean, we both liked Gwen. This animation style, like, really, I didn't like love it, I guess, the first time I watched the Into the Spider-Verse, but it's really grown on me, and I think it's much better. This one, this movie was like chaotic, but I feel like Into the Spider-Verse, the colors, like I almost like had like a seizure. There was like a lot of, in the first one, there was just like a lot, and maybe I'm just adjusted to it now and I knew what to expect going into it, but I feel like some of the bright, crazy colors were kind of toned down, and they do use color a lot in this stuff, like when Gwen was having that speech with her father, when Miguel turned psycho killer, like he's red and everything's red and it's dark, and like I just think there's the style they use with this film is really cool.
Yeah, it really is,
and it's very unique, and it resonates and gets the point across. I mean, the other thing that I thought was really cool, I mentioned this character on a previous episode, but I'm gonna butcher his name, but it's Pavir Parbakar or whatever, like the Spider-Man of India, like that
you
character.
You must just say Spider-Man from India.
Spider-Man of India, yeah. It's Pavitra.
You struggled with that name.
It's Pavitra. I can't say the last name.
Okay.
But Spider-Man India was in this. It was like,
yeah,
that was so cool because like I was just talking about those comics, and he definitely didn't.
Well, I mean, why? There's a reason why he's getting another mini
for sure because of this as well
he's in
too.
His movie.
Yeah.
The only thing Marvel's doing with the comics is trying to make money off the film franchises. That's it. It's the only reason comics exist anymore at Marvel.
Oof. Oh, I thought we weren't getting into the negatives. Sounds we're getting into the
negatives on Marvel Comics, not the movie.
No, but that
I agree with you. I do think that the style of this movie is really, really unique. It is its own thing. It's already being imitated by
Seth Rogen and
Turtles
the boys.
movie.
Yep, Seth Rogen and the boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
just get off your chest, man.
I just wish that I wish that we had gotten a little bit more of Miles in Brooklyn doing Spider-Man things. Like this.
Yep.
The scope of this film is so massive. And I get it, and it makes sense. And I know that somebody really wanted to just throw hundreds of Spider-Men and Spider-Women and Spider-People into the mix to show the true depth and breadth of the Spider-Verse. But it was just too much at times. It was too much.
Yeah.
I didn't love the whole canon events thing.
Really?
Yeah.
I figured you would love that. I figured you would love that.
It's clever. It's clever. However, at the core, and this is like a Peter Parker thing maybe, but at the core of Spider-Man, like his thing is never giving up and facing off against insurmountable, almost unbeatable odds, and making sure that potentially things that would be really awful don't happen. And I think that it's weird that there's an entire army, a legitimate army of spider people whose only purpose is to ensure that these awful events happen that somehow guarantee a spider person is on the right path to being a spider person hero. I think that's really, really flimsy. I think that's just like a made up thing because they just wanted to do this thing to like make Miles go through the Spider-Verse and meet all these other spiders. I really think that's all it was. It didn't hold up for me. It did not hold up for me. And to have the villain of the whole story be Miguel is just borderline insane from where I'm sitting. It all made sense contextually. Like I get it. I understand. I do remove myself from the fact that this is an adaptation, not a one-for-one transfer of content. Yeah. So I try to let it be its own thing, but they really push me to my limits with some of that stuff. Like really push me to my limits.
With that said, is that kind of maybe why Miles is like Spider-Man Prime in this storyline, because he he is displaying those attributes that you're talking about. He's going to do his own thing, and I feel like he said that in the movie. He's like, I'm going to do it my way, and he is displaying. He's not going to just idly sit by and let terrible things happen. I don't know that your criticism is like valid, and it makes, like you said, contextually it makes sense in the story, but they're all, they're kind of like the TVA in that Loki show or whatever.
Right,
they're the time displacement agency or whatever. Like, they're ensuring this certain events go down just so maybe a more catastrophic event does not go down. I can see Miguel.
What is the more catastrophic event?
The universes were like folding in on each other, apparently. I don't know. Like,
but how does that really timeline play out? Yeah, exactly. Like, but how does Miguel is like, oh, I tried this when it happened in my universe, but at the same time, this is all happening because of the collider that was turned on by the Kingpin in the first Into the Spider-Verse. So, which happened first? Did Miguel do the thing first and then create this team of dimension hopping spiders, or what? I don't get it.
And you hit the nail on the head. I would prefer them to just tell a Miles story, because I don't like this multiverse and time travel stuff, because you have to explain all this. To me, I'm just going in with a popcorn and a large soda. I'm sneaking out from work.
So did I.
I'm playing hooky and I'm sneaking out from work and I'm going to see a movie. But you think a little bit more critically about these things, and I think that's good. And it just falls apart at that point. That's why I just tell a Miles story when he's in Brooklyn. Let's do this when we get to the third movie or something like that.
There's so many good villains to choose from. So many good villains to choose from. I mean, Miles even has his own little rogues gallery now, but you could just as easily. We used Dr. Octopus in the first Into the Spider-Verse, so obviously they're not opposed to having some spider villains, some classic Peter Parker spider villains here. I get the tie in with the collider and the spot, but there's just so much going on. Like, you don't need to do all of this. Give me one really good story.
So the spot, correct me if I'm wrong, the spot was messing with the collider, and he brought this spider from Multiverse 42 in, and it bit Miles or whatever, and that's...
Yes.
So why is he blaming Miles then for, like, that happening to, like, him becoming the spot? I can't remember that. Do you remember that?
Because Miles then got involved in that whole thing with the Kingpin, and the accident with the collider is what turned him into the spot.
Okay. So okay. All right. That's right. That's right.
That's his problem. But if his whole deal was getting, like, he hated Spider-Man, he's getting revenge on Spider-Man, he hates Spider-Man, then why is our introduction to him robbing an ATM in a bodega?
Yeah.
It felt more like Spider-Man just
fell into
happened upon this thing, and then all of a sudden we had this conflict, this...
He was like trying to steal money, like he wasn't even doing anything
he was just
sinister.
Robbing an ATM, yeah. Like,
Baxter Stockman is doing more heinous stuff. See last episode about like collapsing buildings and stuff than this guy's doing.
Yeah, he wants to blow up the World Trade Center.
Yeah,
this guy's just trying to get a few bucks out of an ATM, and then all of a sudden he's like the big bad. I don't know. Again, I try not to shit on the movie because I did really enjoy it. There was a lot of really emotional stuff. There's really cool fight sequences. There's a lot of really fun stuff that happens. It's a really heartwarming movie. I think Miles is extremely well written. To your point earlier, the family dynamic is extremely well written and executed. His love for his uncle Aaron is well written and well executed. Stylistically, it's beautiful. There's just some stuff that kind of just irked me. The Ben Reilly treatment. I don't know why we had to do that. Did anybody that worked on this movie like read any of those 90s comics? Because it was like a bad Batman impersonation.
Yeah, he's like a brooding character. I mean, I don't like brooding, like, I don't know.
I don't understand it. They just wanted to. Someone just wanted to make a '90s comics were goofy like this joke, and then the vehicle ended up being Scarlet Spider. And there's stuff like that just feels. It kind of goes back to Sony doing these movies. They have this license, this huge, really important license that has so many characters tied to it. And even though Marvel puts their name on it and they go, "Oh, we're working in collaboration with," I think it's very obvious sometimes that Sony is doing whatever they want, and they don't really understand the source material all the time.
I like
See
the
Venom movies.
I like the canon events because they're at least, unlike the comic books, they're trying to tie all this stuff together, and I could appreciate that. Like anytime I see old school comic book panels like in a movie, I'm gonna get excited. Like that was kind of cool. Like because comics get no shine, so when I see Spider-Man No More and like comic panels, and then they tied in like
that stuff was
the
really
Tobey
cool.
Maguire movies, like that part was cool. But I can
all that stuff was really cool.
Definitely understand where it falls apart in the timeline part. We should have just had a Miles and Brooklyn movie.
Yeah, like you're telling me that Miguel O'Hara, the Spider-Man from the year 2099, which let's not get into the fact that dimension hopping also included time travel into Nueva York in 2099. Like I'm not even gonna touch that. Somehow we got to the future.
That's why I don't like future. That's why I like future stuff.
Not even gonna touch it. But you're telling me that all of these heroic spider people that have come together to work for Miguel, they're all aligned with, hey, our job here is to protect canon events. And a canon event is when a loved one, someone very close to one of our other spider people dies. And our job is to make sure that these people die. What are you talking about? Spider-Man is one of the most uplifting and really always trying to do the right thing type of heroes that Marvel has. His positivity is one of the core components of the character, and I just really have a hard time believing that all of these different versions of Spider-Man throughout the multiverse were bought in on this. Like, yeah, dude, we got it. Yeah, like,
let him die.
Let's make sure all these people die. Yeah, let's make sure all these people die so the worlds don't implode. Because they implode because we needed to do that for the plot of the movie to work. That's how it felt. And that bums me out because I really wanted a little simpler of a plot. And a lot of the jokes in the theater that I was in, a lot of the jokes fell flat. There was not a lot of laughter. Like I chuckled at stuff. I thought there were funny things, but like the theater, typically you see a Marvel movie week 1.
Yeah.
You hear everyone laughing in the theater. There are audible reactions to things that are happening. Not in this movie. Maybe my theater was just full of lames. I don't know.
Wait, was it like a pretty full showing?
It was completely sold out.
Okay, wow.
On a Thursday night.
Okay, wow.
6 days after release.
Okay. I'm matinee style. There was 4 people in the joint.
I'm jealous. I wish I could do that stuff.
That's how I got to do it. But
there's too many people down here for that to work anyway. There's no,
for sure.
Even on a weekday, there's no theater you can go to where there's not a bunch of people in it with you. There's just 7.5 million people live here.
Yeah.
Just no escaping people, man.
So how do you feel about getting Infinity Ward at the end of the movie? We got Infinity Ward, Avenger Infinity Ward at the end of the movie.
Oh, I thought you said Infinity Ward, like the development studio for video games. And I'm like, what does that have to do with this?
Infinity War. Yeah.
Yeah, no. No one was happy about that.
Dude,
that's the only reaction that I heard in the theater.
People pissed off.
People upset about it. My friend Andy went to see it opening night. He and I were talking about it yesterday, and I was like, man, I was kind of mad about the whole to be continued thing at the end. Thought that was kind of mean to do. And he was like, man, in my theater, everyone was pissed. He was like, the kid behind me, as soon as it said to be continued, all I hear from behind is, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like, people were mad. Mad.
Well, there was only 3 people with me, so we didn't hear that. But yeah, I was definitely I was like, wow, they really did that. No, did you know about this third movie ahead of time? Did I miss something?
No, I had no idea.
Like, I had no idea until I was completely out of the loop, I guess, on this one. Cause
even if there was a third movie planned, I would not have expected a to be continued scenario.
Direct continuation, yeah. So
I would have loved a completed film.
Yeah. Okay.
There's just so much going on.
There's a lot going on.
So much. The only other gripe that I have.
Okay. Let's get it out. We gotta get it all out.
I learned this yesterday.
Okay.
Sony announced that they have sent a new version of the film to theaters that is remixed and corrects the volume issues that existed in the released version of the film. Now, when I was sitting there watching this, there were multiple times in the movie where I was having a very difficult time hearing dialogue during music or fight scenes. And I thought it was just because I have played literally hundreds of live shows over the course of my life, and I haven't always worn earplugs. Yeah. And sometimes it's just hard for me to hear. So I assumed that I was the problem. But no. Sony has now admitted they sent a suboptimal version of the film out to theaters that had problems with the sound, because I started looking on Twitter and a lot of people said, oh my gosh, I thought this was just me. I feel vindicated that it wasn't me. But how did that happen? And I would ask the same question. How does this happen? How does a company like Sony, it's not their first movie, how do you miss that? I would say probably 20% of the dialogue in that film was very difficult to hear because of the way sound was mixed in the release version of the film. How do you let that happen? How do you let that hit wide release? And then not offer any sort of, hey, we're sorry if you were in a theater that this happened. Please let us know. We'll give you a free pass to go see it again. Make it right.
That was my thing. Is this a conspiracy theory thing to have you go back to the theater again and hear the corrected version? I don't know how many people are on Twitter like scrolling and doing that. But is this a way to get you to go back to the theater and see it again?
Oh, I'm sure it is, because Sony did the same thing, but Sony made a similar move when Morbius got memed, and it turned into a much, much bigger meme than anyone could have ever anticipated.
I missed that.
The whole "It's Morbin Time" meme happened.
I remember
and then they
re-released
the movie in theaters because of that stupid meme. It's always a money grab with Sony.
All right.
When it comes to their film department, it seems.
Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, kind of a shitty thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't see how you missed that. Well, you do test screenings.
You are Sony. Like, you're Sony. Are you an audio team?
You have internal QA teams that are checking these things. You have test screenings before you even finish final edits of the film. So either what happened was this mistake didn't occur until you did some sort of final mix on the actual sounds in the movie, and then you never checked your work, or it came up in test screens and they didn't take that feedback seriously.
Yeah,
exactly. Those are the only two ways I see this happening, but either one, relatively unacceptable, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, my closing thought from this is I really enjoyed this film. I definitely do not have nearly as critical of an eye as you do, but your points are all valid. I want more of this. This is really. I was very pleased with this movie, and like, if I want the MCU to ultimately get back on track, in my opinion, to like the things that I kind of like closer to my sensibilities, but this totally scratches that superhero itch that I have. Like, I am very pleased. If they expanded the line and did more, which they kind of can't because they're Sony, but I really enjoyed the movie. I really enjoyed Gwen a lot. If they did like a spin-off Gwen movie or something, I'd be pretty pleased with that. So I don't know. I really enjoyed it.
You know, if you would like some superhero animation, scratch the superhero itch. There's a show on Amazon called Invincible. I don't know if you've heard of it. I think you'd really like it.
I might have to check that out. I might have to check it out.
I think you should. Yeah, man. I mean, I agree with everything you just said. That's 100% my thoughts and feelings as well. We're not going to get it in the MCU.
No,
I don't think. Even though there have been some things stated that they need to get back on track, that things aren't really going the way they would like them to. I know there's some new stuff we've talked about, you know, outside of the podcast that we'll get to in another episode, I'm sure. But it's still a really fun movie, despite my criticism. It's still a really fun movie. I had a really good time. It checked all the boxes. My complaints, while they seem like they're major, they really were minor in the grand scheme of things. I still really enjoyed the movie. I can't wait to get the third part. And I hope we get more of this type of animation or whatever releases with superhero content. Although since this animation style is owned by Sony, I think all we'll get is cheap imitations. We won't get, you know, all they have are Spider-Man characters to do this with. So who knows what we get. But I'm looking forward to what we do get, whatever that may be. And with that being said, I think it's time to wrap this one up. I don't have a funny or clever segue. I'll just leave it at, hey, if you like what you see or hear, if you want more of the podcast, share with a friend, follow us, give us a review, interact with the podcast in some way, shape, or form, whether it be on YouTube, audio formats where you stream it, whatever. It helps us out. Our Twitter handles are in the description of this audio or video episode. New episodes come out on Mondays, although there might be a schedule change in the future. And I think we'll have more on that soon as well. So if you want to come follow us on Twitter, we're there. We tweet a decent amount. We'll follow you back. And, you know, we'll be back in 7 days with something new. So until then, my name is Dave.
And I'm Matt.
Take care of yourselves, everybody. Bye-bye.
Peace.